Hello again. Hi, everybody. How's it going? Oh, man. Thank you all for being here. Lorbo, that was fantastic presentation. Jess and I were on the musician side of that production, and it was so fun and so wonderful. And I appreciate you sharing all of the aspects of what went into it, because it was certainly a passion project, and you guys did an incredible job. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Thank you for that panel. I have no idea how you expect us to talk about other things now, because that was wonderfully insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. But yes, thank you all for joining us. Some of you may have seen us present yesterday about doing arrangements from a lead sheet. Today we're going to be talking about getting into VGM as a budding musician. So I'm Maria Bastos, or I'm Kayfee.
And I'm Jess, Musical Moose.
All right. So just to give you guys an idea of what we're going to be talking about today. So if you're new to the VGM scene, or a new musician who loves VGM, you've come to the right place. This panel does assume some basic musical knowledge in order to break in, but any skill level can really break into the VGM scene, which is what we want to really emphasize. But in order to do so successfully, we're going to talk about a few key areas, including music literacy, ear training, improvisation, and networking as well. So feel free to ask questions. We'll try to keep an eye on chat. We'll do some question time at the end, though. If we don't get to your question, then you can always ask it again. That's totally fine.
So I think Laura gave us the loveliest introduction, but just in case we haven't met before, hi, I'm Jess, Musical Moose, and I'm a real life music teacher. I teach middle school and high school band in the Boston area. I'm a sax player, and I've recorded for a couple of indie games. I love Jam Clinic, and that's something Maria and I do together. And we both have worked on VG lead sheets together.
Yep. And I'm a nurse practitioner, and I work in women's health, and it's been a really enjoyable career, but it has its stressors, and music has always been one of my ways to escape from it all. So I play violin and I sing I'm an amateur musician. I'm not a professional, but I've been doing it for a long time, and it's a really important part of my life. So being part of this community has really helped me get back into playing again. I had taken a bit of a hiatus throughout college and graduate school. So if it wasn't for the VGM community, I don't think I would be playing anymore, or at least not as much. And, I felt like a budding musician coming back into it, even though I had been playing most of my life. So, even if you're not a brand new musician, you still feel like a budding musician sometimes.
So the first item of business here is music literacy. And I can hear some people now music literacy. What is this, school? If you just missed the part where I said I'm a teacher, you've already failed the pop quiz. I'm so sorry. But yeah, we're going to talk about music literacy. It's a one of the many components of being a musician, though of course not the most important. There are lots of times you're going to need to read sheet music. There are lots of musicians out there who are stronger at reading, and there are lots who are stronger at playing by ear. But if you want to get good, you got to get good at both those things. You can't only focus on one or the other. Yes, also you have to know how to read notes and rhythms. Don't at me in chat about this. You got to do both, and we're going to give you some tools for how to practice that if you're not already comfortable. So a couple of resources if you want to brush up on your music literacy. Musictheory.net is something I use all the time with my students, and it's got a lot of lessons and exercises. So if you find yourself missing a crucial gap in your knowledge, if you're oh, wait, I learned the lines and spaces in the staff, but I never learned the ledger lines, the notes that go above or below the staff, it can do a lesson on just that, for example. You can practice note reading, you can practice scale construction, you can practice chord construction. It's got a lot of different things. Another thing I like about musictheory.net is that the exercises are customizable. There's a little gear in the corner of every exercise, and you can make it so that you can focus on whatever that thing is that you want to practice. If you want to improve your rhythm reading, I highly recommend the Web Rhythm series on Vic Firth, and you can see it's linked in here. We can post the slideshow later, maybe in Discord or something, so that you can just like click on links. But the web rhythm series like takes you from like, reading quarter notes and then like eighth notes and then like mixing them. And then we do some syncopation. And then we add like, it's a really nice progression of like, how do I read rhythms? How do I perform rhythms? And it's got like a slow, medium, and fast tempo for each thing so that you can hear it, so you can know if you're doing it accurately. And then, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't plug vgleadsheets.com. And we don't get anything out of this. It's free. We get the satisfaction of knowing that like there's correct sheet music on the internet. That's what Maria and I get out of this. But if you are trying to get into VGM, or you're already into VGM and you're trying to use it to improve your music literacy skills, go to vgleadsheets.com. There's transpositions for all the instruments. And we've made sure that these are readable and as practical as they can be. Almost everything is in the original key that you'll find these songs in. So you can actually play along with, whatever YouTube track you've got pulled up for it. But yeah, full disclosure, we've both been working as staff there, but we don't get anything out of it. It's cool. Maria, what's a lead sheet?
We're so glad you asked, or I'm so glad you asked, Jess. So if you saw our panel yesterday, you probably are somewhat familiar with what a lead sheet is, but just to review for people who were not here yesterday, I think of it as like the recipe of a song. So it's the basic information you need to know in order to play the song, or something close to the song. But it's not a full transcription. It doesn't have everything in it. It only has the melody, chords, and form. It'll say tempo and style sometimes as well. And then, it can be a little bit variable based on where you're getting your lead sheets from. We have a system that we use on VG lead sheets to, make it uniform, but it's not an exact established set of rules. Really, not really. But they're really good to help you play with other people because, you can follow it easily. Even if you don't know the song, you can usually, make your way through it and it sounds great. So we can look at this sheet here. This is Underwater from Super Mario Bros. So as you can see, it gives us some information about the song, but not all of it. But it gives us the name of the song, who composed the song, who transcribed the song, the tempo. In this case, it's a dotted half equals 75 beats per minute. The time signature is 3/4. The melody is written out. This is a C transcription. There's also, we have B flat, E flat, F, alto, bass. Also, that's also C, but you know what I mean. It's a bass clef. Yes, but this one's a C transcription. It also has the chords written out above each measure, and it shows you the form as well. In this case, it has a da capo at the end, which means go back to the beginning.
So if you are like, oh, this looks pretty great, I now want to play all the lead sheets. I'm so into this. I love that. But like, hold on just a second. If you bite off more than you can chew at first, you're going to get discouraged and you're going to think this isn't for you. And that's not true. This can be for everybody. We just got to start smart about it. So we're going to walk you through, how do you pick something that's at the right level for you? So you want to pick something that you know most of the notes and rhythms and chords for. You don't have to know every single one. It's always okay to like, there's one chord in there that's new for me. There are 2 notes in there that's new for me. But if you're noticing that like, oh, like half these things are new for me, it's probably not a good choice. You want to know most of them, like 75% or more. You want something that's an okay key for you and your instrument or transposition. I think Sigma Beta made a good point in the chat about how you can go through all the different transpositions for instruments that need transposing. Sometimes it's a great key for a C instrument, or like it's a great key for guitar, but it's an awful key for tenor sax and trumpet. That happens a lot. So make sure it's in an okay key for your instrument. Make sure it goes at an okay tempo for you too. If you aren't, used to reading music and you're trying to read down something that's burning at like 300 BPM, that's just going to frustrate you. You can use the thing on YouTube that slows stuff down. You can put stuff in Reaper and slow it down in Reaper. It's totally up to you, but go at a speed where you're comfortable. And please pick something you enjoy. Don't just pick something because you're like, oh, gotta eat my vegetables. This is good for me. Like there's a time and place for that, but you want something that you're going to enjoy. You don't want to burn out on this. You want to sustain yourself and keep going. So pick something you enjoy. VG Lead Sheets has some filters you can use to help you find music. So if you go to the little filter button on the website, and I think we
later, yeah.
We have some of that later, but if you're like, I really like all games for Nintendo 64, like we have a button for that. It's cool. So we're going to look at some different lead sheets and talk about whether or not they're a good choice.
Okay. So if you love Kirby Superstar and all you want to do as a budding musician is play Meta Knight's Revenge, you can, but you're probably not going to have a great time. This sheet is fairly complex for many reasons. First of all, the tempo is 166 beats per minute. It has a lot of syncopated rhythms and triplets and all sorts of stuff going on rhythmically. It has key signature change. So at the beginning, there's no sharps or flats. And then you go to the second line after C, then you have 5 flats. And then it goes back to no sharps and flats, and then there's accidentals written all over the place. There's fairly complex chords, minor sevens, slash chords, major sevens, add nines. They're not the most complex chords, but they also, at 166 beats per minute, are going to come pretty quickly. So, this is definitely a more advanced sheet. So when you're looking for something to play, make sure you're looking at all of those components of the song, because that will help you make a good choice that's not going to discourage you. So this sheet is, I'm curious what you all think about this sheet. Before I play the song, I would like to see in the chat what you guys think about it in terms of the things we talked about on the last slide. So think about tempo, rhythm, syncopation, key signatures, the chords. What do you guys think? I know there's always the Twitch delay. Probably pretty fast. Not doable on the flute. Yes. Okay. You raised a good point. That's a really good point. You want to make sure that the sheet you have can physically be played on your instrument, or do you have to adjust octaves and stuff? I actually forgot this tune. I think I don't enjoy the title Wet Hands. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. You guys are funny. So there's some low ledger lines. Okay. All right. Very good. All right, why don't I play it for you, and then we can kind of get a feel for it. Okay. So tempo-wise, pretty slow. Only quarter note of 74, pretty slow. The key is A major. It has 3 sharps, which isn't too bad. It's in 4/4. In terms of chords, we have some 9 chords, major 7 chords, but the chord changes are pretty slow. The piano's playing them as arpeggios, so that's kind of a good way to practice your chords, actually, is to arpeggiate them out like that. A couple of notation things. There's a fermata at the end, so the song just kind of ends. There's railroad tracks, which I never remember the actual theory term for that. What's that called, Jess? Do you remember?
Sorry, the railroad tracks you were saying, caesura?
Caesura, that's the one. That'll never stick in my head at any point.
This in chat. Yeah.
Yeah. So that means that you're going to take a pause. But things like that, when you're playing with other people, you want to make sure you all look at the sheet first. You point that kind of thing out so that you're all playing together and starting together. But overall, I mean, it's a pretty basic sheet. Probably a pretty good one for a new musician, piano player especially. So it's a good one. Come on. Okay, what about this one? I think most of you probably know this sheet, or the song, rather. So this is Lost Woods, or Saria's song from The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. So take a minute and just look at the parts of the sheet that we've been analyzing so far, and then we'll play it and kind of think about it a little bit. So I'm seeing, oh, it's really fast. Okay, yeah. I tried tabbing this out on the guitar last month. It's hard. Okay. Let's play it and then we'll talk about it. You all know this one for the most part, but we'll play it anyway. Okay, so yeah, the first thing I saw somebody mention was that it was fast. 140, that's fairly fast. That being said, the rhythms aren't super complicated. There's no sharps or flats, so this one's kind of weird. I guess it's in C major, but it kind of doesn't sound like it at the beginning. It's just an odd song, but no sharps or flats. The chords are pretty basic. There's a major 7, there's a sus, but like that's it. There's a couple C over E's, but nothing super crazy there. So it's not too bad. So it's important to always make sure that, you don't just breeze over a sheet that might look too hard, or you think it might be too hard because of the tempo, or just make sure you listen to it and really analyze it, because there are some that you might be able to play that you think you might not be able to play. This one has the da capo, goes back to the beginning, but pretty basic. In terms of the double stops, most instruments, if they're mono instruments, you can't do both lines. Some you can, like on piano, but you can, try both lines. It's fun when you're playing with other people to assign one line to each person, or to multiple people. So, but overall, this one's not too bad, even though it's a brisk tempo. Okay, next one. Come on. There we go. So this is a 2-pager. It's a little disjointed, so I apologize for that. But let's look at page 1. This is Gusty Garden Galaxy from Super Mario Galaxy. Excellent song. I think most of you guys know this one. Oh boy. Yep. This is the first song you played by ear on the piano. That's impressive. This is not an easy song. The key's pretty tough. Yeah, the key signature. So, okay, so this is the first page. If you take a look, the third line from the bottom, what do you see there? Yikes. Double flats? Oof. Yeah, double flats are no bueno. I mean, they're theoretically correct, but they're not super fun to process on the fly. Let's look at
theoretically correct, the worst kind of correct.
Yeah, this is the second page. A lot of the same stuff in terms of the key does change a bit for a bit here on the second page, and then it returns. But yeah, more double flat action on the bottom. Chords, there's some slash chords, minor 7. Let's listen to this one, and then we can talk a little bit more about some of the details. This is a great song, though. Pardon the slide transition. Thanks, guys. Nope. Sorry, my bad. This works better in my head. Okay. Beautiful piece. I think it's universally loved. Don't you think? But it's not super easy. I know as a string player, having 5 flats is not the most fun thing in the world. I'd prefer it to 5 sharps, but especially with double flat situations, it throws my brain off. I'm not sure how it looks for saxes, Jess. Is it less bad for you?
No.
No, it's not.
No, it's not great.
Yeah. So I think we went back and forth with like the double flats, but we decided to leave them in because it was theoretically correct. But yeah, so there's a lot going on there. It is 4/4, but it's a brisk tempo 165. It has the slash chords. It has a del segno, which means that when you get to the end of the piece, you're going to go back to the segno, which is at A on the first page. It has mordents, which are those little trills, triplets, all sorts of stuff going on with this one. So, it's doable. It's beautiful. Like, this is one of the ones where, like, if you love the song and you really want to push through and learn it, like, you can, but just know that, like, something like this is definitely going to be trickier. So make sure you're working on some other stuff that, will give you some successes immediately. But this is a good one. This one's very popular in jams. Okay. We're going to move on now to ear training.
It would help if I unmuted myself, if, so people can hear me. Yeah, so ear training. I think it is super, super useful. It's one of like the most crucial skills you can have, and it is really not taught enough. I know we've got some other music teachers in the chat here, and I know there are plenty of you, who have taken any kind of music lessons, and I bet ear training probably was not taught very much. What ear training is it involves being able to recognize like pitches, chords, intervals, rhythm, meter, tempo, articulation, all the music terms just by listening. So The idea is you hear a song or you hear a phrase and you know how to repeat that back on your instrument, whatever your instrument is. That's like the bonus points. If you can repeat it on your instrument, or if you can write it down, that's awesome. I think the first goal with ear training is definitely to be able to reproduce things on your instrument, and then the writing things down comes later. Once you figure out like, all right, what is it that I'm hearing, then you can start putting the theory brain to use. If you want some ear training specific stuff to work on, there's a Perfect Ear app on Android and iOS. It's not something that I've used a lot. Maria, have you used that?
I have. It's pretty good. It teaches you pitches, chords, rhythms, like all sorts of stuff. It's very good app. Highly recommend.
Awesome. If you want like a practical application, if you're like, okay, yeah, I can hear like what a perfect fourth is. I can hear that this is a major scale, for example. But like, what do I do with that information? Something to do that has some practical applications is to pick a tune that you know well. And by you know it well, I don't mean you already know how to play it. I mean, like, it's in your ear already. Maybe it's Gusty Garden. I don't know. But pick a tune you already like, that you already know, that's already in your brain, and learn it by ear. You can check yourself against VG lead sheets when you're done. We're hopefully right. And if you find a mistake, let us know, please. We want to be right. But it's a good way to do some practical applications and have an easy way to check yourself. If you have no idea where to start, you're like, yeah, this sounds great, but like, there are thousands of video game tunes. We can use the filters on VG lead sheets. So like, there's the picture in the slideshow, and it's just like what the filters look like. And you can search by composer, time signature, keys. So like, if you don't want to go into a crazy key, if you're like, I'm good for stuff in C major, you can filter by C major, and that's totally fine. If you're like, I'm good for 4/4, but I'm not good for like 4/4, and then also 3/8, and then also 7/8, like, you can filter. There are also those sliders that you can see. That's chord complexity, overall difficulty, form difficulty, harmonic difficulty, melodic difficulty. I just want to walk you through what each of those means, if in case you want to use this. So chord complexity only refers to like, how fancy do the chords get? You can set it to like 1, and it's like, here are your basic triads, and we might have like a dominant 7th chord thrown in. And then like the opposite end of the spectrum is 4, which would be like, we are deep into like altered extensions. So if you see like, there's flat 9, sharp 9, flat 13 on the ends of chords, that's, a higher chord complexity. If you reduce the chord complexity and you're like a pianist or a guitarist, you're going to get chords that hopefully, they're mostly triads. They're the ones that you already hopefully know how to play. The overall difficulty slider just below it is kind of like, it takes a lot of things into account. But like, if you're new to this, you want to set that to 1, and that'll be safe. There are a lot of reasons tunes go higher up. Like the average is a 2. Most tunes fall into the 2 category. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to do 1s and 2s, 2s might be a big step up, because 2 involves a lot of things, just the way we do our ratings. But like, if you set that to 1, you'll be okay. The form difficulty, this is not too bad if you're practicing on your own. But at a jam or something, like if you throw the sheet up on the projector or throw it up on everybody's tablets, the higher the number, the more likely that somebody's going to get lost in the form, because we've got repeats that go back, a lot of systems, or we've got like on the coda, take the 3rd ending to the 2nd same. I don't know. It gets complicated. But if you're just by yourself, you can set that form difficulty to whatever. The harmonic difficulty refers to how quickly do the chords go by, and do they make sense? There are certain chord progressions, or like combinations of chords, that show up really often. And if you are working with one of those, or the chords are going by really slowly, that's a lower harmonic difficulty. So if you're getting some expected patterns, you're getting a lot of time to think about it, that's a lower harmonic difficulty. High harmonic difficulty means like the chords don't relate to each other in a nice, convenient way that makes sense right away, or like you're getting chord change after chord change after chord change. If you want to practice that, good for you. Set that harmonic difficulty to 4, my friends. And then the melodic difficulty, if you're like, I play violin and I want to practice my sight reading. I want to practice, reading my notes. That melodic difficulty slider, that's for you if you're just working on your melodic reading. So you can set these to whatever. Every song has a rating for all of those. So that can be helpful for where you start. So I'm just going to check in on chat really quickly. I know.
Yeah, there was some interesting points raised about chords. Someone had said that if they see like 11s and 13s and stuff in the chords, that they just, or even 7s sometimes, they leave them out. That's pretty okay to do, especially when you're playing with other people, because it'll still sound good. And it doesn't mean you have to miss out on a jam just because the chords are a bit advanced. If you get the root of the chord, then it'll be great.
Yeah, absolutely. You get the root and you get the quality, like major versus minor, you're going to be fine. Absolutely. That's a great point. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that you can toggle here to get what you want. But the main point in using these filters is we don't want you to see a sheet, get really excited, and then go, oh my gosh, I can't do this. This isn't for me. Flip the table. I quit. Right? We want you to find something that is right for you. And these are some ways to do it. You don't have to do any of it, but it's just a thought. Improvising.
It's okay.
So improvising. It's not just for jazz. Improvising is all about making things up as you go that aren't on the page. So literally anything that you do that's not on the page, that counts as improvising. If you're like, I'm a terrible improviser, I can't play jazz. Those two statements aren't necessarily related. So whenever you jam with other musicians outside of like an orchestra or a large choir or a concert band setting where it's really important that everybody reads what's on the page, otherwise, you get 60 musicians all just kind of doing what they want. It sounds crazy. When you're outside of that setting, improv skills will come in handy. This can include anything from a sick solo to adding grace notes and slides, to playing a nice background or accompanying line or comping pattern. It can include a lot of different things. And if you want to get started improvising, we have some tips for that. So my first major tip, if you want to get started with improv, is to pick a tune you know well and embellish the melody. All right. And that can be anything. That can be you add a couple of filler notes. That can be adding your grace notes and slides. That can be taking it kind of rubato at a time and adding some things. That counts as improvising. If it's spontaneous and you're trying to, add things that aren't on the page, that's it. That's what it is. If you're on a comping instrument and you're like, I want to try some of this, I have some thoughts for different instruments. So I'll go into each one very briefly. But if you personally want like more, like I play this instrument and I need something else, you can message me in Discord after, or if there's time at the end with the questions, we can talk about that. So my lovely bass players out there, if you are used to just like rocking that root note, if you start adding the fifth, right? So like the fifth note of your scale, if you go like root five, that's already improvising, because nobody on the page on a lead sheet, for example, is telling you to play the fifth. So you can start playing the fifths in addition to the roots. If you're good with that, you can start arpeggiating the chords, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, or you can start walking between the chords. So like doing scale patterns that get you between the chords, and that counts as improvising. It absolutely does. If you're on piano or guitar, you can start playing with different textures and rhythms. So if you get started looking at a lead sheet and you're like, all right, I hit the chord and I hold it for 2 bars, and I hit the chord and I hold it for 2 bars. That's cool. Now start playing with a little bit of a different rhythm. Maybe you do like 4 quarter notes in each bar. Maybe you start getting a little spicy, going back and forth. I'm defaulting to piano here because I'm awful at guitar, but like maybe you start like doing a cool rhythm that goes between your hands. Maybe you start doing an arpeggio thing. That all counts as improvising. That's all comping. So you can start playing with that. Percussionists, drum set players, aux players, get the fills going. Fills are improvisation. Absolutely. So you can start throwing in a fill every 8 bars or every 4 bars to like get that going for you. Once you get comfortable with that sort of thing, you can start to venture further outside and start playing around. And honestly, one of the mistakes that a lot of people make, me, but a lot of people make is going, oh man, I need so much more theory before I can start to do this. I'm going to do it and it's going to sound bad. I need to know more before I can do it. That's false. Don't let your brain tell you that. Just start doing it. It's okay. It's allowed to not sound the way you wanted at first. That's fine. It's expected. So please go ahead and start trying, even if you're like, oh, a tritone sub, I don't know that yet. I can't improvise. Yes, you can. It's allowed. So don't make the mistake of thinking like, oh man, I need so much more theory. I need to learn so many more things before I start improvising. Yeah. But, if we're on the next slide, okay, but when can I take a burning solo? All right, I've done these things. I want to sound like Insane in the Rain. I want to sound like Doug Perry. Hey, me too. Get in line. But you can do these things once you've listened to and transcribed a bunch of people you want to sound like. So that transcription thing that we were talking about earlier with the lead sheets, right? You take a melody that you already kind of know and you figure it out on your instrument, and then you check yourself against VG lead sheets. Once you've done that a few times, you can start transcribing soloists, right? And you can slow down their solos. You can take just parts of their solos. You don't have to do the whole thing. It's okay. Take people you want to sound like and learn how they play it. Do it by ear, right? Transcribing is about taking what you hear and writing it down and reproducing it on your instrument. The more transcribing you do, the more musically fluent you get. Plus, you'll be working on your ear training at the same time. It works out. Take advantage of those Bandcamp Friday sales that have been happening, where like the sales go directly to your favorite artists. Buy the albums of people you want to sound like and start figuring out, what are they playing? How do I reproduce it on my instrument? And I know this next point on the slide kind of goes against the thing I said about like, you don't need all the theory. It doesn't hurt. Don't let it stop you, but it doesn't hurt. Knowing your scales and arpeggios helps a lot. The reason why is because it helps you understand what patterns are expected. Things that come in a scale or in an arpeggio form happen all the time. And if you know your scales and know your arpeggios, you'll be more able to recognize those quickly when you are transcribing or even when you're reading. So it's because they're common patterns that come up a lot that they'll allow you to do better with ear training and with reading. And yeah, Maria put a great picture in here of a bunch of us transcribing a sonic tune from memory at the airport. I think, was that on our way to VGM Con?
I think it was Mag Labs. You guys are in shorts, yeah, so right. It has to be summer, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was funny.
Yeah.
Although Mark wears shorts all the time, but
yeah, he's always in shorts.
Anyway, networking. So how the heck do you start playing with other people? That's a huge roadblock for people, including myself. It's vulnerable to go up to people you know or don't know and, get your instrument out and start playing with them. Like, that's a big step to take. But it's worth it. It's way, 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 way more fun to play with other people. And you can make like some of the best friends you've ever had. I first started doing all this MagFest 2017, I think. I hopped in at the jam clinic. I brought my instrument for the first time and just started playing. And the first person I sat down next to and played with is still one of my best friends to this day. So it's really fun way to bond with people and to, explore your instrument and to gain some confidence. So what do you do? So at cons, you can hop in at jam sessions. When it's not a pandemic, you can join your local community band, orchestra, or choir. You can go to local jazz jam nights. I know that the DC area has a bunch of those. I know a friend of ours always talks about going to those. So that could be really, really fun to meet other people and play not just VGM, but whatever. And you can get on a bunch of Discords that have musicians in them. There are several of them. There's the VGM Together Discord, which has tons of musicians in it. So most Twitch streamers that stream music have Discords, and you can talk about all sorts of stuff, get advice. It's really, there's some really good communities out there. but yeah, just talk to people, see if they want to play with you, you know, whether it's in the hallway or whether it's recording something remotely and making a huge 160 people Paper Mario video. Like, you know, I don't know why there's question marks here, so let's disregard that. And then profit. There you go. As we mentioned earlier, we've made some of our best friends through the VGM community. For the most part, it's been a really fantastic experience. I mean, you guys have seen the community come together for this convention that, you know, they've been running, and it's pretty welcoming. It's inclusive. Everyone just loves music and loves video games. So it's a really great way to meet other people and to bond. So yeah, you can nerd out about your favorite soundtracks. I mean, like if someone says, oh, I love this soundtrack, and you love it too, you want to just be like, oh, that's the best soundtrack. I love that song. Da, 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 da. And a lot of times those songs have like really emotional places in our hearts. Like you'll hear a song and you'll be back to when you're 10 years old and you were playing whatever game with so-and-so. Like it has really emotional impacts to a lot of people, and sharing those stories can be really nice, to share the experiences you have, like the varying experiences that two people have with one soundtrack or one song. Like it can be really fun to go through those kinds of conversations. But yeah, and so if there are jams that pop up, take a solo, participate. If you want to just play the melody for a while, just play the melody. Like just start playing. You know, I personally am not a great improviser just because I was classically trained, but I started by I can read music. So I started by just playing the melody. And then after a while you can be like, oh, I'm going to do this nice counter melody, or I'll do some just static notes underneath to make it fill it in and sound nice. And you start to get a little bit more creative as it just kind of organically happens when you have other creative people around you. Let's see. If you've got arrangements you want to play, ask people if they want to have a reading session. Ask for help from people around you. And that usually will like spark a conversation too. And then just keep your eyes and ears open. Like you see someone on the piano, you also play piano, and you see this awesome thing that they do, or like think that's a great idea, or oh, they changed the style around, or they changed the groove around. Pay attention to that, and you know, ask them questions, or try to, you know, absorb what the people around you are doing as well. And then you'll just organically get better at it. Here's the other fun part about playing with others, and especially in the VGM community. You can meme while you play. You can do whatever you want. You can play the Flintstones theme in Chrono Cross song. You can play the lick. Everybody does play the lick, actually. Yeah, granddad. But like, it's just, you know, a lot of people in VGM, you know, grew up on the internet, and we have all the meme culture, and it pops up all the time. And one way to like really bond with others in a jam is to just like play Snow Halation or Megalovania. Like it's going to make people laugh. And then sometimes you'll start a cascade of just like memeing or coming up with creative ways to incorporate Megalovania or the GameCube startup sound into a song. Like I've heard people do like Lady Gaga. Like there's so many amazing ones that pop up. In that same vein are mashups. So you can mash up similar sounding songs. So like if you have two video game songs that sound similar, you can weave them together, or you can put like a totally random pop song or a groove from like, you know, a rap song, whatever, into whatever you're playing. Can be really hilarious. There have been many times where Jess and I have like started playing the exact same random song at the exact same time. It's really funny. I don't know why we do that.
Same.
It happens. It's like two sames. It happens all the time, but it's really, really funny. Like for an example, let me think of an example. Like KK Slider. I know Rob Kovacs, he was jamming on that with us once at VGM Con, and he put Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai on there, and it was amazing. Like stuff like that just really elevates the experience, and it just feels really, really good, and be like, oh, I know that song, that works so well. But that also helps with your creativity too, because it requires you to have other songs going on in your head at the same time and seeing like, how can I fit it in? It's not the same key. Like, what do I have to do to it to make it fit? So it's also a really good exercise. I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Silva Gunner, Siva Gunner. That's just, if you want to have some excellent examples of what we're talking about, that's the way to go. Remember the time MKP and Musical Moose slipped into the same Green Day song in perfect harmony? Yep, that happened. Yes, it did. Oh, hey, Rob. Yeah, we're talking about you. That was a really fun jam at the first VGM con we went to.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But like, just have fun. Like, it's just, you know, once you get over kind of just the initial hesitation to start playing with people, it's just, you can have a blast, and you're not always going to play perfectly, and every single person's going to mess up. But a lot of times the mistakes are really funny and you can laugh about it because it's just like, whatever. It's a no stakes situation, and it's just about having fun. You could also change the style of the song or the feel of a song. We run some events at these cons called the Wheel of Arrangements. And what we do is we pick a sheet or a song to play, and then we spin a wheel that has different styles on it. So it'll be like Megalovania except New Orleans brass band, or it'll be well, I can't even think of a song anymore. Underwater by Mario, except it's polka, like whatever. There was definitely a Genova polka session that we did that was incredible. And then we did Hydro City. I don't know. I'm not even going to get started with that argument.
Hydrocity, please.
I can't. But we did it in a disco style, so we called it Discosity Zone, and it was amazing. So like, it's just really funny to like just meme out. It's have fun when you guys do this. Hydra wife. Oh my God. Hydra kids, Hydra wife. I can't. Anyway, Jess, you want to do the closing remarks?
Yeah, sure. So in summary, I know like we know this is a lot of information. There's like a lot of different entry points for different people. But hopefully one of these makes sense to you and you're like, yeah, that thing I need to learn. So here's like the big overview. Work on your music literacy, seek out lead sheets and other resources to help you refine your skills. You go back to that slide, you click on some links, you play around. You want to select songs that you like, but that are appropriate for your skill level. Don't make the mistake of trying to bite off more than you can chew. Work on critical listening to help with that ear training. So critical listening means like, listening with some intent and trying to pick apart what you're hearing. Let your creative side show by dabbling in improvisation. And improvisation is for everybody. It's not just for jazz. You'll get more confident as time goes on. Find others with whom you can play and discuss musical VGM concepts. The whole Discord.
Yep.
Yeah, everybody, I think in this Discord wants to talk about that. You'll probably make some awesome friends in the process. And I don't think, Maria, I don't know that we mentioned, like, that's how we met is like, we met, what was it? Mag Labs, like 2017 or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we were playing together all weekend. And then at the end of the weekend, we were like, so where are you from? And she's like, oh, we're from like the Boston area. And I'm like, we're from the Boston area. So we live like half an hour apart from each other, but we met in Alexandria, Virginia. So
yeah,
it was really funny. But like, you get to know enough people in this community and you're going to find a lot of people that live near you, especially if you're near a metropolitan area. But a lot of times just even within a couple hours, like drive or something, you can meet up with people and arrange jam sessions when it's, when it's safe to do so. So, try to do that. It's, we met then and we've played in a band. we went to Japan together a couple years ago. Can't believe that was almost a couple years ago. And, we cook all the time for each other, and like it, it's a really good way to just meet people and bond.
Absolutely. And that ties into the last point on this. Have fun. VGM is an amazing way to develop yourself as a musician, no matter what level you're at. Bond with others and experience joy, which I think we all need right now. So that's the summary. We've got about 10 minutes here for questions. And if it runs over that time, we can always answer questions if you message us or ping us in the Discord. Yep. So if there are questions that you didn't get answered that we missed as chat was scrolling, go ahead and drop those in chat now.
Yeah, here's one. For arrangers, what are some things to keep in mind when trying to create lead sheets that are newcomer friendly? make sure I understand.
You want to take that one, or you want me to take that one?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question. And I'm super glad you asked. So arranging usually means that you're taking something that doesn't exist for your ensemble and you're writing it out for your ensemble, or you're taking a tune and you're changing it somehow to fit your needs. If you're creating a lead sheet, typically like all the lead sheets on vgleadsheets.com are direct transcriptions of an original song. And it's actually not an arrangement. It is, it's literally just whatever the composer did. It's the melody and the chords usually. That's like the bare minimum for the lead sheet. If you want to transcribe a lead sheet and you want to write one down, and you're thinking about making a lead sheet that's beginner friendly, you want to probably pick something that is not too fast, something that is not in a terrible key. If it's in like, A flat minor, everybody is sad. If you're in C major, most people are happy. So the key is important. The tempo is important. If it's got expected chord progressions, that's important. If it's got not a lot of syncopation, not a lot of crazy stuff happening in the melody, not a lot of accidentals in your melody, that's important. So if you're trying to choose a song for a lead sheet, something with expected chord progression, something with a diatonic melody. And by the way, if I'm using words and you're like, what's that? Go ahead and put it in chat and I'll teacher at you. But yeah, those are some things. If you're making an arrangement that's beginner friendly, you have a lot more leeway. If you're taking a lead sheet that already exists and you want to make an arrangement out of it, you have a lot more leeway in making it beginner friendly, because you can change. If you came to the panel yesterday, you can change literally anything about that. So you can put it in a friendlier key. You can make it slower. You can take away some of the rhythmic craziness, some of the melodic craziness. There's a lot of tools at your disposal.
Yeah.
These keys spark joy. These do not spark joy. Thanks, Danny.
What are some good VGM cons to go to besides MagFest and PAX? And VGM con listed in chat. Oh my God, I love that you use David Pumpkin's meme. That's my favorite. It's my favorite too. It's so good. I'm glad you guys are appreciative of the David S. Pumpkins.
And the skeletons are
part of it. Oh my God, I can't. We were laughing about this for like half an hour the other day. Anyway, let's see. MagFest, PAX. PAX isn't really a video game music convention, but they do concerts and stuff, so there's definitely overlap. VGM Con, there's VGM Together. There was Swag Fest for the Swag Fam Discord, which had some music stuff in it. But can you think of any more? Does anyone else think of any more video game music cons?
Help us out. Drop them in chat.
We just got to make more of them, I think. That's what I think. Are you aware of any resources that can help those with dyslexia read music? Ooh, Jess, do you know anything about that?
That's a great question. I know. Yeah, there's like a specific font that exists for reading. Somebody was working on a music font that was like a little heavier on the bottom, so the notes like there's a font for like text where all the letters are heavier on the bottom and like the spacing is wider. Somebody had been working on one of those for music. I'm not sure what the status of that is. But there are not a lot of resources that I'm aware of, unfortunately. Some strategies that I've seen people use and that I've helped students with is like definitely printing it bigger. Like when there's more space on the page, it seems to help. If you can do a little bit of color coding for yourself, that seems to help. But there are not a ton of resources out there, unfortunately. I know we've got some teachers in the chat. I know I know there are some other teachers out there, so help me out, please. If you know about them, please put them in chat.
Put them in. Do you know any tips on learning how to write / spontaneously do mashups? Ooh, that's a good question.
It's a great question.
Mashup, like a full-on or mashup arrangement. I know for like putting little like Lady Gaga into a jam session for that, like it's good to just kind of know a few songs that you like to stick into things and like learn them in a few different keys so you can put them into different songs. In terms of a whole big arrangement of a mashup, usually like I know for Jess and I, like when we end up playing the same thing spontaneously at the same time, it's just because something in the original song made us think of another song. Whether it's the melody itself or the chord changes or like one of the instruments, like sometimes it just reminds you of another song. And then most of the time, if you play whatever you're thinking, people are going to relate to it because it reminds them of it too. But the best is hearing one that you didn't think of, but it totally works. Like it's just, do you have anything to add? I don't know. It just kind of comes out of us.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like listening for elements that like make you think of another song. Like I did a mashup of Big Blue from F-Zero and You're the Best Around. Or I don't know if that's the title of it, but the one that gets used in the Karate Kid movies, because like the chord progression sounded similar to me. And I was like, oh man, these totally go together. They're at the same tempo. We can mix these together. So things that are at the same tempo help a lot. Things that have the same chord progression help a lot. Things that have the same or there's like Rivers in the Desert from Persona and I Need a Hero. That's one that like the chord progression is the same.
Ooh, that's a good one. I never thought of that one. I like that.
Yeah. So anything where you notice like something in common, like the chord progression, like the vibe, like the tempo, like a rhythmic figure, you can do that.
Yep. Do you have any techniques for faster arranging? I know we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I think the one thing I would say with my limited experience arranging is just to like get as much on the page as possible and then go back and add details later. Otherwise, you'll just get really bogged down with making the first 4 measures perfect and you'll never get to the rest of the song. I don't know. Do you have anything to add, Jess?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the panel yesterday was a lot about this. Not getting bogged down in details is good. I think like having kind of a game plan as you go in is really helpful, because then you can, not only can you have like goalposts along the way where you're like, all right, I've reached this and I can put it down now. You can also feel like you've gotten something done. Like if you're going to spend 2 hours and sit down and arrange, you can be like, I achieved 3 sections worth of my arrangement, rather than like, I got some of it done and I hope it's good. Like if you have goals in mind going in, I think that helps a lot, both with direction and with feeling like you accomplished something.
Yeah. Trying to get through some of these ones that we'll be able to answer. Any advice for networking online that is still authentic and not trying to get things from people? I want to meet cool people who are making games and also find some folks to work with / write VGM for eventually. Discord? Yeah. There's a lot of Discord communities. Like I said, a lot of music streamers have them, and they usually, you're not just talking about music, so you can just kind of get to know people. And a lot of times you learn about them, you learn about what they do, and then you can collaborate with them that way. Obviously, when we can meet in person, it does help. My personal favorite is to insert the riff from Toxic by Britney. That's a good one. Do recommend.
Yeah. As far as networking online that's still authentic, I mean, I highly recommend, if you saw some panels or if you saw some musical acts this weekend that you enjoyed, you know, I don't put a lot of my stuff out there. I don't know if I call myself a creator, but like I feel like creators love hearing from people who enjoyed what they did. And if you like just reach out to people, be like, hey, I caught your set, I caught your panel, I watched you talk about this thing and that was really cool and I loved it. Like that's a great way to like authentically meet somebody, like as long as it's true, right? Like as long as you actually did enjoy what they put out there. And I feel like nobody's going to be like, oh, don't tell me good things, don't tell me you liked my stuff. Like people are going to enjoy hearing that. So I feel like that's a really great way to get started. And especially if it's, for something like this, Amateur Human, where like, people are putting themselves out there right now for you. Like the timing is perfect. Go ahead and do that thing. So I'm sorry. I think we have to wrap up.
Yeah. The only other thing I'll say is like, you're going to see the same people all over the place, like at different cons and stuff. And then, go up to them and be like, oh, I saw you at this thing. Like, cause while it's a big community, it's also not that big of a community and everybody kind of knows everybody. So, just go say hi to people. But I think that's about it for us.
Yeah. If you have more questions, by all means, ping us in Discord. I'm always happy to talk teachery stuff, especially. So if you're like, how do I particularly learn this thing? Message me in Discord and I'll answer you. But yeah, that's it for us for today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being such an awesome chat, and you had some really great questions, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
This was a triumph.